Welcome to tonight's special broadcast. My name is Joseph McGowan. I am joined with Hadil Al-Khouly. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of you tuning in to tonight's undoubtedly momentous event for the history of this dawah, the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, and for 106 members of this religion, men, women, and children who have faced persecution, oppression, anti-Semitism, threats of life and death from multiple countries, from Algeria, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, Azerbaijan. This is why we're here tonight. We want to fill you in on what has been taking place over the last year with these members, and especially up to this day, where 106 members are actually gathered on the Turkish border next to Bulgaria, literally fleeing for their life. So we want to begin discussing what has happened. You have been involved with this case over the last year. Members of the religion have been contacting you. It started off very slow with isolated cases until the release of our new gospel, The Goal of the Rise. The Goal of the Wise, written by Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim. And we want to understand what has happened. Why are we here tonight? Why are 106 people literally sitting at the border about ready to cross on Wednesday?
My name is Hadil Al-Khouly. I work as the Human Rights Outreach Coordinator at the Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light. And basically over the past year and a half, I've been receiving reports from our members from all across the Muslim world documenting cases of harassment, state-sponsored persecution against them because of their faith, because of them being members of the faith, and because of them believing in this holy book, the gospel, our gospel, the Goal of the Wise. It started in Algeria, and from Algeria, there was a community of over 30 members who were persecuted by the Algerian authorities. They were imprisoned, they issued fatwas against them, declaring them apostates, declaring them heretics, saying that, see, they are men, women, children, people who are living their lives very ordinarily, and the only thing they wanted to do was to sit together in their homes and study the religion and read together. They have committed no crime, but they were surprised by getting calls, being summoned for interrogations with their children, with their elderlies, being forced to sit in interrogation. Joe, they would sit for over 20 hours with kids, no water, no food. They don't even know why they're there.
Not having any idea what would happen to them.
They don't even know what crime they've committed. They were just told, why are you guys gathering here? And they're asking, why are you even summoning us here? What crime have we committed? And they're being told that you are mocking Islam. Why are you gathering? You shouldn't, why aren't you in your homes? Your beliefs are against the state. And they didn't even know why they are being held. They didn't even know what crime they've committed. And it just was a continuous series of harassments to the point that they are sitting in their homes. Now police comes and raids them in the middle of the night, Joe, drags them out with their kids, takes them in the middle of the night to the police station, takes pictures of them, confiscates takes their passports, confiscates their laptops, goes through their personal stuff. Like the women, they were saying, we're in our home and we just find like 20 policemen just storming into terrified. Of course, imagine the kids, the elderly, people who are sick. And the last thing we've heard was they told them that the next day you're going to appear in front of the court. And at that time we got international human rights organizations involved, we got Amnesty involved, Amnesty International, who immediately at this point started communicating with the group and with Ridwan. You'll see him here. This is the press release, one of the articles that Amnesty International released. And I remember that night, Ridwan, who you see here on the left, Ridwan told us word for word, he said, Hadil, I don't know tomorrow if I'm going to come back home. And that's exactly what happened. Immediately we informed Amnesty, we don't know what's going to happen to Ridwan tomorrow. He's going for court. Without them even having a chance to know what the crimes were, and without even him having a chance to get a lawyer. And 30 of them, the whole group, has to appear tomorrow in front of court. And he went, and he was. They told him, "You're not going to go back home. That's it." And they arrested him then and there. So Amnesty got involved, and they issued several press releases urging and calling upon the Algerian authorities to drop all charges off of them, and to release the group. And there were several appeals, and the court, they were determined. They were determined to, and they actually issued a verdict that they would sentence all three of them, Ridwan, Khairuddin and Sharif, sentence all three of them to 1 year in jail, and to the whole group, the whole 30 group, to 6 months in jail. And during that whole time, they would have to be under house arrest.
And their sentence came just after a short time of being apprehended. Was it your impression or the impression of the members of the faith on the ground that they have been watched for a long time? Is this what they were told? I mean, how long has this been going on? I mean, have you heard anything from the Algerian government, or while they were in captivity, or while they were in prison, of how long they were being watched, and for what crime? And why were they being watched?
No, they told us, look, we're seeing like police cars, no, not even police cars, we're seeing cars that are standing in front of our house for hours, and we don't even know. We're obviously being watched. We go out of the house, we go to buy something, we're seeing somebody is following us, but there is no official any communication of them having committed any crime, or that there's a trial, or that they even have a chance to get a lawyer, to get support, to look into the case, to understand what crime have we committed. And then overnight, so they bring them in for interrogation and specifically ask them about the tenets of the faith, without even telling them what crime they've committed. And court trials are being held where they're not even told what crime they've committed, but they're being questioned about their belief. That's a clear violation of human rights and the rule of law.
You're there to uphold the law. You are a judge in the court of law, and now you're acting as a debate.
You're having a debate with me.
Scholar or some sheikh.
Exactly. The Algerian state has the obligation to protect its citizen. No, that's what it says in their constitution, no matter what their belief is. And now they're standing in court, and they have like a number of jury who are attacking and questioning them about their faith. Again, not telling them what crime they've committed. And
now, you mentioned before that they actually, when they apprehended them at their house, they actually confiscated their laptops, their phones. They were going through their social media, and they were attributing just simple communications through friends and family, sharing their beliefs, their basic tenets of faith, things that we hold true, that we believe in, that we live in our daily life. They were treating this as what, some crime or some form of propagation? I mean, because we know that they weren't openly, I mean, it's clear, they weren't openly going out in the street. They were living amongst each other. So what was the issue there?
The Algerian state, and they said this in the court document, and actually, if we can take the court document. So this is the document that had the verdict against Ridwan and the group. In this verdict, you'll see at the bottom part, the judge is basically saying that it has become clear to us that we are relating to the fatwa from the Islamic Council, and that all symbols of religious scholars in Algeria agree on, that this group, it says here in the third line, al-fi'a dalla, it says that this group is a group that's misguided, that is outside of Islam, and that the beliefs and rituals that are mentioned by its members are in entirety completely against Islam against the Quran, against the prophetic so-called Sunnah. And that means, and this is the last line where they're saying, it is against what the scholars, look, it's against what the scholars have agreed on for over 14 centuries, which means they now have to be condemned and punished according to law. So now we're having an official document where a judge in a Muslim state, a Muslim court, is telling us, if you are a member of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, we consider you an apostate. We consider you a heretic. Why? Because our scholars have agreed. Because your beliefs go against what the scholars have agreed on. Because you don't believe in the state-sponsored version of religion. And that meant, and they literally told them this, George, they told them this in court. They said, because you are a member of this religion, all your rights as a citizen are dropped off of you. Can you imagine, like, what that means is that the state is saying, you have no right to work, you have no right to study, you have no right to housing. So that means that the state is saying, we can't protect you, which is the obligation of the state. Not just we can't protect you, we won't protect you, and there's nothing that we owe you, and you figure out your life. And that's an insane concept to think of, because a Muslim government doesn't agree with your beliefs. They consider that you're not, all your human rights are dropped off of you.
You just executed the character. How do they live in Algeria? I think my confusion, I mean, coming from America, and maybe you can give us some insight, because obviously you've been in this for so long. You know, growing up in America, I've heard and seen reports of Saudi Arabia, you know, of Iran, you know, these types of Muslim-backed states being extreme in their policies. But I've never heard Algeria acting in this way. I mean, can you give us some, maybe give us some idea of, I mean, how can they rule in a court of law that we deem your belief, I mean, it's like a witch hunt. I mean, what I'm hearing is a witch hunt, and we want you out of our country, or we want to imprison you, or we want to execute you. I mean, that's what I hear when you're talking.
Look, that's the really, really, really scary aspect of this whole story. That what our members are seeing is persecution that would happen to you in any Muslim country. It doesn't matter whether this is a so-called state that is classified as fundamentalist or not, whether it's Sunni, whether it's Shia, whether it's a so-called secular state, whether it's a religious state, whether it's a state that it's known to have fundamentalist or more strict interpretations of Islam. The scary aspect is, if you believe in this holy book, if you are a member of this religion, you are not safe in any Muslim country on the map, not even a Muslim country, a Muslim context. Because I'm also going to talk to you a bit about what happened in countries like Thailand, which is, it's not a Muslim country, but they were living in a Muslim context. So what was happening, and we can go more in detail over Algeria and the other countries, but what we've seen over this year and a half is the case starting in Algeria, outrageous violations of human rights and privacy and right of citizenship.
And obviously confirmed and backed by Amnesty International.
Of course. It was a whole, I mean, the reason why in the end the sentence was dropped and they were released is because of Amnesty's campaign, issuing one press release after the other, issuing several tweets, and over a course of 6 months, Amnesty has been calling and urging the Algerian authorities to release them, saying it is outrageous that people find themselves behind bars because of their beliefs.
Sure. And you mentioned it, I mean, they served 5 months, so it's not like they went in and then were released. I mean, they actually served 5 months hard time, and under duress. I mean, maybe you can, we'll talk about that later, but I mean, obviously there were forms of punishment within the prison. It wasn't like they were sitting there in a classy prison enjoying life. It was very difficult for them, and of course, states like this that are attacking beliefs, especially our beliefs, they made it very difficult for them while they were inside.
It was systematic humiliation. I mean, every time until now when I talk about the case of what happened to Ridwan, this wasn't a person breaking a law and then being taken to court. No, this was systematically breaking them, humiliating them, shaving their heads, getting everybody in prison, all the inmates, and telling them, hey, there's a group of infidels, kuffar, that are coming. Can you imagine, like a prison guard his job is supposed to protect inmates, or at least make sure that they keep the inmates who are in safe, basically instigating the inmates who are in jail against Ridwan and the group and telling them, hey, these are kuffar.
Wishing for violence.
Of course, they're giving them a green light to do all forms of violence against them, and they wouldn't care. So Algeria, and I really want to go into it more and tell you the stories of what happened to them, but what I want to go back to is to see why there's like now a very wide scope of systematic targeting that means that you are not safe in any Muslim country. Because, okay, so Algeria is a majority Sunni country. Amnesty got involved, it issued the press releases, they released them. Even though the aspect of the fatwa was still there, so their lives is definitely not safe, but at least they're out of jail. During that time, and then it was December 2022, the Goal of the Wise was released, which is, of course, for us, it's and for any neutral reader, it's a fascinating book.
Yes.
But in a Muslim country, it is such a dangerous book for in contexts which is unfortunately, in fact, the fact in all Muslim majority countries, these beliefs are deemed blasphemous, heretical, and it's not even a theory. We've seen it in the court, in the language of the court case.
Yes.
We've seen it in what the judge literally said, because you believe in 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go over the again later we'll pull out what he actually mentioned of the tenets of the faith. So he lists them, Joe. He lists, because if you believe in 1, 2, 3, 4, you are outside of Islam, you are misguided, you are committing a blasphemy, you are mocking and insulting Islam.
A few examples. So, for example, we believe that it's a woman's right to wear the hijab or not wear the hijab. It's not recommended, but it's not obligatory on them as well. We believe that the Kaaba is not in the current place that the mainstream Muslims say that it is today. We believe that alcohol is permissible. These types of these tenets of our faith, you're saying that in these Muslim-backed states, absolutely impossible to coexist. They will not allow it. They've
said it.
Yeah.
They've literally said it. Actually, maybe if we can go back to the court document, because I wanted to show you the judge is actually listing it's the other one. So here, look, he's saying here in the second part, he's saying it has become apparent to the court that the felony of mocking Islam has now been confirmed for this group. Why? It says in the second part, because they belong to a new religion that is called the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, and from its tenets, now look, he literally says, is praying without having a certain form. So there is no prerequisite of a certain form for prayer. Ramadan, the fasting month for the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, is not fixed at a time, but it can happen in December in any year. And then they list our form of fasting, but they, basically referring to us, they're not committed to the existing months of Ramadan. On top of that, they believe that the sacred Kaaba is not in Mecca, but it's in Petra. And they also say that drinking alcohol is not forbidden, but it's a personal choice. So he literally, they went through the tenets of the faith that are in the book, and he lists them, the court lists them, and then they say, and because of that, they deserve to be punished by law. Now, who picks up on the targeting of the believers after the release of the book? Iran. So now it was happening in Algeria. Now, right after the release of the book, And again, I'm telling you this because I'm receiving all these reports. After the release of the goal of the wise, the targeting, the imprisonment, the harassment, the persecution against our members has skyrocketed. Yes. From Iran to arresting 15 members of the religion, taking them to jail, threatening them with execution if they don't recant their faith. If they don't sign papers and say this religion is bad, I'm outside of it.
To make false accusations.
To make false accusations.
So the state of Iran is threatening the members of faith. Here's some actually now, some of the members of the faith from Iran.
Yeah,
these men and women, and by the way, their children were suffering as well while they're in prison, were being threatened with death, being threatened with imprisonment, with torture, being humiliated, being mocked, and these are actually secret gatherings from Iran where because they had to, because even their families were trying to turn them into militias, trying to turn them into the government, and I think it's important to make sure that the people understand that it's actually the state of Iran itself, and correct me if I'm wrong, the state of Iran itself committing a conspiracy, really, if you call it that, to force false accusations from the members of the faith, threatening them with execution if they don't do so, in order to create this campaign against the religion, a religion. And how many members would you say were in Iran at the time?
See here, you can see this is a video from their secret hiding. In Iran, so see they can't even gather without being scared that they would be taken. Their lives are in danger. Look, there's women, children. They're hiding in the wilderness.
Yes, just to practice their belief and be with one another.
That's it.
That's it. These men and women are not going out in the streets. They're not bothering anyone. They're not harassing the government. They're not they're not rioting. They're not calling for an uprising. They're literally just trying to spend time together like a family and practice their beliefs amongst each other. And they're facing this not just from the government, but the militias, which the government is backing and allowing them to harass them and intimidate them, beat them, shoot at their houses. I mean, we've had cases where believers in Iraq and other places have had their houses shot at. I don't want to, because we're going to go into all of these topics here in a moment. I think it's really important, especially with Iran, because we're certainly being targeted. I think that's safe to say, and we're going to go into that. But it's important to say that we've had isolated incidents, and you would agree that a believer's family member, whether they're a Sunni or they're a Shia or they're a non-believer altogether, would harass a believer, a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a husband or a wife. They would have to kind of practice their beliefs quietly in their home, we've had cases where a family would threaten to throw a believer like in an insane asylum, like literally an actual insane asylum. They're threatening to throw people in. But these were just a few cases, and it's really important to note, and for all the viewers at home, everyone watching, that it is this book. It is the Gospel, the Goal of the Wise, written by Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim, that we saw the cases of persecution and oppression, anti-Semitism on the rise. Absolutely. This believer, this young man beaten upside the head, his head literally split open. I have other pictures here.
It's the same one that was just in the video before. You saw he was just sitting. He has a son, he has a daughter. So in the video before, we just saw they were sitting together. And now look.
Yes, we're showing the pictures here.
Sayyid Ali.
The families are allowing this. The militias are instigating this. The government's encouraging this, behind it all, clearly orchestrating it all. Why? And I know that I've asked this question. I just want the people at home to hear it again. Why? Why is this happening? What have they done? What have they done to get their heads cracked open? What have they done to be tortured in prison? Some are still in prison. Some currently right now, some are still in prison, and we don't even know what's going on. The family, they don't even know what's going to happen to them.
Because they chose to practice their God-given right of freedom of belief. a right that is written in every constitution in these Muslim countries, a right that is written in any or every international convention and human rights agreements that these countries signed and committed themselves to. It is their right to believe in what they want to believe, and not just that, it is their right to manifest their belief. Don't tell me sit in your home quietly and study and you have your human right. No, it's my right to express my belief proudly, loudly. It is a law that in the human rights charters, it is part of your belief to speak about your belief, to write about your belief, to manifest your belief. But to tell people, sit in your home, and even when they're sitting in their homes, that's the insanity. When they're sitting in their homes, quietly reading, they drag them out from their homes in the middle of the night. When they write books, they issue sentences to execute them and take their phones and take their laptops and don't allow them to have any form of expression. When they write on social media, when they try to at least have a community, a congregation, militias attack them in their homes. When they stand on the street to say, this is my belief, they drag them and throw them in behind bars. So what is left? What can they do?
I think we actually have a phone call coming in right now. Let's take that. Hello, thank you for calling into the show.
Hello, my name is Hamid Reza Bari, and I am the Bishop of Iran and Afghanistan. I have been in touch with the brothers and sisters that you guys have been showing today on the show, the Iranians who've been. And to be honest, the stories are extremely, these are stories that they have told me. Their testimonies are horrific. The stories they have told me, they are worse than any nightmares you could imagine. And they have done, such acts that are, you only find them in the movies, the Iranian government towards our members in Iran. And they are absolutely innocent. They haven't done any crimes, no crimes at all. And I have to stand up and defend these people, because these people are genuinely good people.
What have they done?
Can you give us some examples?
Anything. Yeah, I will give you guys some examples. So, for example, one of these guys that you were showing, whose name is Sayyid Ali, he was basically, he owned a shop, and he was selling and buying houses, and he had a good life. And what happened was he came across the religion of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. And he realized it's the truth. And he loved the message that we had: humanity before religion, humanity before everything else. And he fell in love with this religion. So he got in contact with us, and he became a believer. And all he did was this. In his city, he started talking about the religion only to his family members. And he said after a little bit of time, he started seeing people approaching him, random people that he never met before. They would approach him, ask him, hey, what is your name? We are undercover police. We are getting reports that you are trying to cause, basically, you are causing corruption, and you are causing problems here in this area. And he was telling them, look, I'm innocent. I haven't done anything. What is my crime? And they wouldn't answer him. They never, ever gave any clear answer to any of our members. What is their crime? And the Iranian government, in fact, until now, they haven't given any of our members any papers. Can you believe that? Any papers signed by any of them saying that your crime is such and such. And they are doing this on purpose, because they know that their action is absolutely against humanity.
Now, you've been in touch with the members of the
yeah.
faith for some time. You've been actively
Yes.
in their lives for over a year, and they have been
Yes.
reporting to you, some of them that actually went into the prison, and maybe you can go into
Yes.
a little bit of detail about how dangerous, I mean, how big this prison is that they actually were sent to. They were coming out and telling you that they were hearing the screams of torture, and they were being threatened with execution and torture, and they were actually being forced, and this is what we were talking about before you called in, being forced to make false accusations against our leader of this religion, against the religion itself,
Exactly.
against themselves. Could you go into a little bit more detail about that? Because for me, I mean, where I come from, this is an active conspiracy by the Iranian state against this religion.
Of course. Look, first of all, before I mention this, I just want to tell you that in 2018, by the end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019, the Iranian government, they came up with a series, a program, which is an Iranian propaganda against our religion. And they are trying to compare us to some other, terrorist groups like ISIS and some other groups. And they know that they are lying. They have no proofs. They are not giving any proofs in these propagandas that they are doing against us. They are lying to the people. And they have showed these programs on their national TV. So this was one thing that they did, and we responded immediately to them, saying that all of these
This
things
is
that you guys
the
are
documentary that
Right now, we're actually
showing.
showing the viewers a clip of this propaganda documentary.
Exactly. So this is the first thing they did. They lied about us. They said that this group is made up by the MI6. And they have operations like ISIS and bunch of lies, and they try to deceive the people. You know, this was their plan from the beginning, and they started their propaganda machine since 2018. So they've been trying to do that since 2018. So we got back and we responded to them, and we made some clips, and we kind of, we answered them. But then what happened was when they imprisoned our members, they have them to make false confessions.
I mean, this documentary is false. I mean, these people are not even members of our faith. So I mean, it's clearly propaganda.
Exactly.
It's fake news.
Yeah, and they have footages of, like, other dangerous groups, Islamists and extremists, and they are talking about us. It's not even our footage. These are not even our people. It is very clear what the Iranian government is trying to do against us. You know, there is no question about it. Obviously, this is their propaganda. They have a plan, and they are trying to destroy our religion, and especially destroy our religious leader.
Yeah.
Because if you watch this documentary, at a point they specifically mention the leaders of our religion by name, and they just show some random footages of them, and they specifically mention he's an American Egyptian man. And what are they trying to do? You know, it's very interesting. And they are saying in the documentary that they are not talking against Israel. Obviously, what they are trying to do is they are trying to make the Muslims, against us.
Yeah, agitate them, create fatwas, just like you were mentioning earlier. They want to try to create fatwas, tell them, look, these people are not from Islam, they're apostates, they're heretics, and they're, I mean, what they always say, their blood, they want to issue violence. Hamid Reza, we thank you for calling in. We definitely want to speak with you later. We intend on reaching out to you more. Appreciate the update. We were talking about this propaganda before, and this state-run conspiracy by Iran to make us look like terrorists, to make us look like Israeli agents, to make us look like American agents, MI5, MI6. Everything that they've been saying is false, so, but I think from the world I come from, I mean, you get used to different organizations and politics. You see people spreading false propaganda in order smear campaigns. See, that this is me back in the day when I was 18, 19 years old. They're trying to drive a certain narrative. Hey, these are Americans. These guys can't be trusted. They're here to destroy our religion. But what I think is concerning, I can deal with that. I can, because some of the clips that we saw earlier in the documentary, those people they're not even in our religion. So I think it's clear for anybody to see that it's false news. What's concerning to me is what Hamid Riza mentioned, is that in the prison they are torturing and threatening with death and with imprisonment, or using tactics such as threatening their wife in the other room or threatening their son in the other room with torture or death if they don't make false testimonies against our leader, Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim, against this religion, making wild accusations. And maybe you can go in a little bit of some of these accusations so we can see how the Iranian government is trying to position this. Why? Because to me, it's interesting. Algeria happens, Amnesty backs us up, steps up, makes a few press releases. Algeria's like, we don't want to mess with this. And they release. Whatever their intention was, we saw a quick release after Amnesty began. You've been working with them and they were released publicly. Iran, no. Silence. People still in prison. Threats still happening. Threats of execution. This propaganda still happening. And it seems like they want the religious community to issue these fatwas. And I want you to imagine, you're speaking to me or speaking to a viewer at home, someone from the West who doesn't understand what that means in these Muslim-backed states. Please explain to us if these governments are able to rally up the community of scholars, the community of sheikhs or religious leaders, and they issue such a fatwa like Algeria did, but more extreme, like in an Iranian tone. What does that mean for the people, the members of the faith living in that country?
In an Iranian tone, if you say that I am a member of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, that means you're an apostate. And an apostate, in their so-called jurisdiction, literally means that your life, your blood, your sanctity, all of that is dropped. It's permissible. This is now, again, this is not theory.
I can come take your house.
And I wouldn't be punished for it. I can kill you, I can spill your blood, and as a state, as an individual, as someone who's passing by, because now you are an apostate, and I wouldn't get punished for it. That's the insanity.
I walk up, I crack this man's skull in half, and I'm doing a service to the state.
To God and to religion and to the state, and
this
I'll
guy
be
will
a
face
hero.
no crime.
Absolutely
No
not.
crime.
That the scary thing now is that that's the state doing that, and at the same time they're giving a green card to anyone when they make that statement that they're saying these are now apostates. They're now giving a green card to anyone to attack them, to murder them, to steal from them. Basically, they have no rights. Their human rights are completely dropped off of them. And this is a state that's taking this position.
Can you pull up some of those pictures where the car was being shot at the house? This was in Iraq, if I'm...
This is Iraq.
This is a
and by the
different
way, this connects back to the whole point we're making about a conspiracy. Because look, in Algeria, the case was what? That they've seen beliefs that for them, they consider to be heretical, so they arrested them. Iran, now they
Who is this?
So this is in Iraq. After the release of the book, Abbas Minati, he's in his home. This is his house. He wakes up on gunshots of militias shooting at his house. Look, you see, these are the bullets.
While he's in the house, while his family's in the house.
With his children.
Sure.
It's a miracle that he's still alive today.
To explain to us, imagine you're speaking to Americans, you're speaking to people in the UK, Europe, how dangerous the militias are in Iran and Iraq. And I would argue, I mean, and you know more in this case, but I would argue that even the Iraqi militias are influenced by Iranian-backed fatwas and things that they're saying, and it's all one massive network. I mean, the Shia militias in Iraq, a lot of people see that they actually go back to Iran anyway. So once they get these fatwas or these green lights, you're telling me right now, and please, and I want you to emphasize on this and explain this very clearly, that a group of armed men, heavily armed men, like military type men, are going into this community right now in broad daylight, opening fire on this house, potentially killing the people inside. they're going to leave. If they get caught, totally backed by the government, not a big deal. These people are not going to get in trouble.
It's not just that. They're not going to get in trouble, but the victim here, he's being told, he goes to the police station, he said, hey, I just had people who came and they shot at my house because I'm a member of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. They said, you are lucky that we did not apply on you the verdict of a murtad and sentenced you to death. Can you believe the insanity?
Disappointed that the militia didn't do the job. You're lucky that we didn't come and finish the job that they were doing.
What are you even doing here asking us to protect you? He's doing what a citizen should do. He goes to the police station. He says, state, protect me. I have people shooting at me in my house. I have this, look, there's footage. So he was able to actually show the police a video. By the way, Abbas's story, it is so heartbreaking because he was able to show them over there. Basically, there are cameras on the streets. So they were able to get a camera from the front and side that would identify the faces of the people. When they came, they refused. They refused to take the footage that would identify them. So see, this is the footage from the side. So here you see, you can see them in the back there, shooting.
This is unbelievable. What we're looking at right now is actually CCTV footage of the militia pulling up on the house at night and firing on the house and on the vehicle.
Absolutely.
And you're telling me that when he goes to the court, he goes to the police, he files, obviously what any human being on earth would do is a complaint that somebody just fired on my house, on my family, and not only did they not give him any time, any consideration, any basic human respect, they actually said, you're lucky we don't just kill you.
That's exactly what they did. He said, please look, get the footage, get the front camera. You will be able to identify them. They're like, yeah, okay, we will. A week later, he goes again, and he finds that they have closed the file. There's no trace of it, and we're not going to pursue this.
I think it's important to state here because we actually. Can you read this for us for those who don't read Arabic?
Yes. So this is the police report that Abbas made, and he's saying that the person who's making the complaint, Abbas Radi, he is coming to file a police report against men who were on a motorcycle. They were unidentified, and they came and they shot at our house. In the area of Hay Ur, the neighborhood of Ur. And please look at the evidence. And then here, the second part, basically here you can see the signature of the police officer and basically saying we will follow up. So he did what he's supposed to do. It's documented. But there was no follow-up. The case was closed. He went several times again. He's obviously scared. I mean, he has children. I mean, look. Yes. He's an older man. He doesn't know when they're going to come next. And the scary thing is he has no way of protection. Where would he go? Who's going to help them? What if they come tomorrow? What if they come in a larger group? What if the whole neighborhood comes? Now you're telling me I'm a kafir, my blood is permissible. Killing me is a great deed. The whole state, that's the narrative. This is a state where the militia is controlling everything. They're telling me, I asked them, I said, okay, but when you go to the police...
So look how many times they fired on the house. Children in the house. These members of faith in Iraq, I mean, and I want people to keep in mind, I think it's important to mention too, these are respectable members of the community, doctors, lawyers, dentists, contractors, PhDs, people who are not committing any crimes, people who abide by the laws, people who have been good family members, good neighbors. There were no problems in any of these lives until this book.
The book, no, of course, it was the beliefs that were stated in that book which have started like a mass targeting across the whole region, where, like I said, it doesn't matter what type of government this is, what type of system this is, what type of mazhab or doctrine they're from, they will not grant you protection from anyone because you believe in this book. And they're basically telling you, we don't want you here. We don't want you, we don't want you to work here. There were people, there were stories of kids being taken out of school. The school says, you know, we don't want this child in the school. There were reports of people.
Hold on, the teachers.
Teachers, no, the administration of the school.
So not the students, not peer, not bullying, not abuse by parents. These are actually admins of a school, teachers of a school. Get your disbelieving children out of our. We're not going to educate your children.
No, we're not going to.
Because of you.
We're not going to educate you. We're not going to. If you come to look for a house, we're not going to give it to you. If you're going to come look for a job, we're not going to give it to you.
Then how do you live? How do you live in a place like this?
They don't want you to live. Either you believe in what they believe in or don't live. That's why they are gathering now. They are fleeing for a chance to live. That's the amount of danger they are in their home countries. It doesn't matter if you live or you don't, but don't live with these beliefs amongst us. And that's why they had to flee, because there is no life anymore.
You know, we keep talking about this. I know this has been something that's been on our minds for days, and wondering what's going to happen on Wednesday when 106 of our brothers and sisters go marching towards the border between Turkey and Bulgaria. And you know, in one hand, you're praying and you're hoping and imagining that, you know, because they don't want anything else but to live. I think that's the message here, is that they don't want to even live in your country at this point. They can't. They understand. They've heard you loud and clear. They get the message. You want to execute them. You want to torture them. You want to rape them. You want to take their properties. Okay, we get it. We're leaving. They're now. They've been actually in Turkey for some time now. I mean, they went through this horror. Maybe you can explain that. Like, help us catch up to speed. They went through this horror, this nightmare, surviving gunshots, surviving prison, surviving torture, surviving having their properties and assets ripped from them, surviving having their children ripped from school, all the peer pressure, the familial pressure, the government pressure, all this stuff. This has been going on for months, months, literally. They've made their way out. How long have they been in Turkey? What is happening here? And I think if you can drive this message home for me, and this is the thing that's been repetitive for me, I keep thinking about, is if for some reason the Turkish border patrol stops them and doesn't allow them through, what does that mean for them? Like, what do you go back to at this point? How do you live in Iran? How do you live in Iraq? How do you live in Algeria? What does this mean?
I mean, the idea now is what's happening now. So the book got released. We see like a very fast, like sweeping wave of harassment against the members. So Algeria, Iran, Iraq, Malaysia, Thailand, Morocco, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Egypt, all at the same time, targeting the members of the faith. So they have to run for their lives. And the only fastest way they found was Turkey at that time. So imagine you have like your house is burning behind you. You just run wherever you can, you know, trying to last minute grab your children, you know, grab your wife, grab your family and run. And sheikhs making fatwas against us. We have it on TV. Look at that. This is an Iraqi scholar.
وقال نحن دين جديد ندعو إلى دين جديد.
So he's saying you're calling a new religion, we're calling to a new religion.
وكثير من الدعوات التي هي دعوات واهية لا أصل لها، لأنه نحن نعرف أن من ادعى دين غير دين الإسلام يطبق عليه شرعا حد المرتد.
وهذا
الحد هو قتله.
To be killed.
يستتاب 3 أيام
Look
ثم
how shocked he
يقتل.
was.
No, of course. He's saying that he knows that people are watching this. See, this is the issue that I think that people at home watching, that you're not familiar with this type of rhetoric and this strategy. They know that what he knows what he's saying. What he's saying is, any of you people at home that are inspired by what I'm saying, God loves that you go and you kill these people. God will love you. God will bless you. And they're hoping, they're not going to go do it. He's not going to do it, but he's hoping that he can go inspire somebody, and they would be totally happy about that. And what you're saying is the Iranian government, the Iraqi government, at least these two governments at this point, from what I'm hearing from you, would actually, they would support that.
I mean, this is an invitation to his followers to go and attack and murder members of the religion. That is, in essence, what this is. And everybody knows and understands that. So he's basically giving the green. So what life can they continue living? You know, you don't even know next day who's going to knock on your door, who's going to come and shoot you in the middle of the night. You don't know. But all you know is that very influential scholars in your whole country, backed by the state, just said it's okay to murder them. So obviously they had no time. The only thing they could do was just get all their loved ones and run.
And you were getting those calls. You were getting those calls from Iran, from Iraq, from Algeria, from multi. You mentioned Egypt.
It was after the release of the book. It was continuous. I mean, we were shocked. I mean, it's just getting more dangerous and dangerous and dangerous, and they don't even know where to go to, who to talk to. And thank God we had the support of human rights organizations. We mentioned Amnesty International, Human Rights Without Frontiers, more organizations mobilizing to grant safety to these people, because it is a very fundamental right that's being violated. You are just asking to practice your faith in safety for you and your it's a very basic request. It's their right. It's not even a request. So they had to flee, and they fled to Turkey. But Turkey is also a Muslim majority country.
Yes.
So these beliefs, again, like I said, now that you've seen this wide, broad spectrum, now it's a fact. We have a court case, we have documents where they are telling us in every way that they won't accept that belief. And it's not just, I mean, the threats are against the author.
Yes,
of the book.
yes. I mean, multiple occasions. I mean, and this has been going on now that I know of personally, directly, since Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim, the leader of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, since this book's been released, has received multiple death threats. I mean, tens and tens and tens of death threats, not just against him, against his family, and it's clear now that they will not allow this to exist. And I think this is and correct me if I'm wrong, the Muslim-backed states will not allow the tenets of this book to exist in their countries. And to them, there's no debate, there's no discussion, there's no tolerance. To them, you hold this book in your heart, you keep it in your hands, you speak about it on your tongues, we are going to kill you. And I think that's the message that's loud and clear, at least from Iran and from Iraq, subtly from Algeria. I think they were a bit more careful when maybe they saw that it was an international movement and Amnesty got involved. But it's a wide sweeping thing, and that's why they were fleeing for their life. And when you said that the human rights organizations began reaching out to them, we had on the screen earlier an open letter informing that they're fleeing. We're coming. We have to leave. We have nowhere to go. And this was actually signed, this open letter. If you want to read through this, I think it's really important. Actually, if you want to, we have time. Read through this. I think that people need to hear this as we go through, and to see some of the different organizations that are behind this petition that signed this open letter.
Sure. I mean, just to give a quick background of this petition. So now what's happening is that these members, they fled to Turkey. And I'll give you the chance to read it, and then
Sure.
I'll let you explain it a bit.
So here we have to the General Directorate of Border Police in Bulgaria, the Executive Director of the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, the Fundamental Rights Officer of the European Border and Coast Guard Agency. We, the undersigned, are writing to urge you to fulfill the fundamental rights obligations Bulgaria are bound by by under the law of asylum and refugees, Article 18 of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. Directive 2013-32 EU, the 1951 Geneva Convention relating to the status of refugees, and Article 14 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, namely the right to asylum and to a full and fair individualized assessment with the right to appeal for a group of 103 members, and you mentioned that's actually increased to 106 now, of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. There is currently a group of 103 members of the faith who have gathered in Turkey after having fled persecution in their home countries, Algeria, Iran, Iraq, Azerbaijan, that we didn't mention Azerbaijan, Jordan, Thailand, and Palestine. Members of the Ahmadi religion have been labeled as heretics and infidels, as you were mentioning earlier, in many countries due to their beliefs. A trend they report has worsened since the release of their gospel, The Goal of the Wise, in December of 2022. Members of the faith report that a number of claims written in the book are considered heretical and that they are considered contrary to other religious beliefs. These views, the group state, have led to their persecution through accusations of denigrating Islam. In fact, in Algeria and Iran, members have faced arrest and prison sentences, as we were mentioning, for exactly this, being forbidden for exercising their rights to religious freedom. And in Iraq, they have suffered gunned attacks on their homes by armed militias, and scholars have called for them to be killed. This is being documented. I want to stop here really quick. I want everybody to understand this is being documented, confirmed, and supported by, name off some of these groups that you've worked with and who they are in the world of human rights.
The Border Violence Monitoring Network, which was the network behind this initiative, is a network of already 14 organizations in more than 40 European countries. So Human Rights Without Frontiers is one of the top EU human rights organizations. Of course, the Association on Refugees and Migrants in Bulgaria, this is one of the most active organizations that have been incredibly supportive in the whole journey of trying to cross the border to safety.
Even offering help once the members make it over safe.
Yes. So if you would like to continue.
Sure. For the above reasons, many members of the group decided to flee their home countries and pursue their right to seek protection and freedom to practice their religion. They do not feel safe to lodge an application for international protection in Turkey due to the consistently documented violations of religious freedoms. As we mentioned, all Muslim-backed states are having issues and major issues with the gospel Goal of the Wise, including criminalization of blasphemy or expressions deemed insulting to religious beliefs. Although Turkey is a secular country, President Erdogan has close ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, and in fact in 2022 a report from the European Parliament warns that in Turkey religious minorities face sustained legal and administrative pressure. Furthermore, the criminalization of blasphemy under Article 2163 of the Turkish Penal Code shrinks any space for views that are different to the country's mainly practiced Sunni Islam. In fact, Turkish singer, and they were mentioned, the case Sezen Aksu,
yes,
received a massive backlash for lyrics that described Adam and Eve, considered holy figures in Islam, as you know, and in the song referenced them as ignorant. And some of the tenets and some of the teachings in the Gospel Goal of the Wise speaks about the story of Adam and Eve and speaks about the different prophets and messengers and some of the mistakes that they had along their spiritual path with God. And a crazy Muslim-backed state would take something like that and just cast a broad stroke over a member or a group such as that. It goes on to say that in light of all this, the group do not feel safe to lodge their applications for international protection in Turkey, as they fear they will be faced with similar persecution to that which they have fled in their own countries. As a result, they have tried to seek their legal pathways to Bulgaria and have contacted the UNHCR in Bulgaria. Can we stop right there and you explain to the viewers at home and everyone that they have taken steps? this has been months. This is not something that happened last night. This has been a long period of time that this persecution, this oppression, this anti-Semitism has been taking place, and they've taken legal steps in their respective countries. They've done everything they could, and they've now moved outside, and they're still taking legal steps to go through. It's not like they have some attempt, from what I understand, to do something illegal. They're actually going to their God-given human right to the border to seek asylum. Can you explain that?
Basically, after all these horrific circumstances that they faced in their home countries, like we said, they had no other choice but to flee. And the first place that they could flee to that fast was Turkey. But again, like we said, Turkey is a Muslim majority country, and they wouldn't grant them asylum for beliefs that are for them are considered heretical to Islam. So now they're stuck. They can't go back to their home countries. They can't apply for asylum in Turkey, because Turkey won't grant it to them. They can't even speak to any embassy in Turkey because they're not nationals of Turkey. And they now cannot remain in any Muslim majority state, so they have to go to a non-Muslim state. So then they've tried to apply for visas to Bulgaria to be granted to them on a humanitarian basis. So they have done everything in the right way. They've spoken to all the right parties that they're supposed to speak to. They've reached out to the UNHCR in Sofia, in Bulgaria, in Turkey. They've spoken to civil society organizations. They've spoken to the state agency for refugees in Bulgaria. They've spoken to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bulgaria itself, saying, this is our situation. We have a case. We have a case. We are refugees. Our life is in danger. And this is not a group of people who they made their case very strong and very transparent and said, this is our situation. Please grant us our right to claim asylum in a legal way and allow us to apply for asylum by entering Bulgaria through visas. Now, this is a process that happened over months. So they have tried and tried and tried over almost 4 or 5 months of desperate attempts, knocking on every door, going to every organization, speaking to every government agency, going even to the UN. They physically went to the office of the UNHCR in Turkey and knocked on their door, taking their files with them, taking their papers, Ridwan saying, hey, look, that's me. This is me. This is my profile on the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, recognizing that I am persecuted because of my religious beliefs. Yes. What happened is that all of these attempts were unsuccessful. Then they made a very courageous, but a very, very risky decision. They said, we have a right. Our right is enshrined in every constitution and document that all of these governments signed. We're going to follow the law. We are going to gather and present ourselves together at the Turkish-Bulgarian border. We are going to ask at the border, exercise our right and say our lives is in danger. We came openly, legally, through the official border, respecting the laws, respecting the treaties, exercising our right to verbally at the border apply for asylum. And
which I think that's what it mentions here. If we go back, it says, as a result, they are planning to present themselves at the official Kapakul border crossing point between Turkey and Bulgaria next week, which is now coming up. That's this Wednesday. To request asylum in front of the Bulgarian border police. We, the undersigned, urge that this request be respected in line with Article 58.4 of the Law on Asylum and Refugees, which states asylum can be applied with a verbal statement submitted in front of the border police. They literally, it's within their human right to walk up to the border and submit that request.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We further urge the Bulgarian authorities to respect Article 2795 of the Bulgarian Criminal Code, which denotes the border crossing is not a criminal offense if you are crossing to seek asylum. The above information has been demonstrated that the group have a well-founded fear of religious persecution and risk their right to freedom of expression if they are forced to return to their home countries or to remain in Turkey, which is what we're saying. We're saying that if these people are not allowed to cross into Bulgaria, if the Turkish border police do not allow these people to go to safety, to flee for their life, if you send them back, they're saying, put me on my knees and execute me, because that would be more merciful to me if you just put a bullet in the back of my head than to send me back to these militias who want to rip my body apart and do whatever they want to do to me. Therefore, we, the undersigned, call for the applications for international protection to be registered, lodged, and treated with full individualized assessments in Bulgaria in line with national law, European Union law, and international human rights law. All of this that we just read, all of this that we just talked about, everything that we've been talking about tonight, all the threats, all of the horrors, all leading up to this point, leading up to this march on Wednesday, leading up to their human rights to go to the border, has all been endorsed and signed and supported and encouraged by these groups. And again, I want you to share with the viewers at home, because many people are not aware of this world. I need you to understand that. Like, imagine I'm not aware of this world. Who are these people? Who are these groups involved in supporting this?
I mean, these are some of the most active organizations that are working tirelessly to protect the rights of asylum seekers and refugees and migrants, and monitor borders to make sure that their rights to lodge an application for asylum is respected, that the borders are respecting their rights, that there is no human rights violations against them, and that they get to exercise their right to claim asylum verbally at the border. So the Border Violence Monitoring Network, as I've mentioned, they have been incredibly supportive. They have, you see there the first names who signed this letter, this open letter, and they are a network, like I said, of over 14 organizations in 40 countries. They have done tremendous work of monitoring borders in the EU, monitoring the basically refugees or asylum seekers, that their human rights are respected, that the illegal practice of pushbacks is monitored. They write about it, they report it, and
you don't support a march like this. You don't support a people like this unless you do your due diligence, unless you've looked into each individual case, unless you see clear signs of persecution, of threat of life, of threat of death.
It is a very clear, there's no even gray about it. It is a clear case of a group of people whose most basic right of freedom of religion is violated. And they are doing the exact same thing that anyone would do. They are following the law, they are following the human rights law, they are following the 1951 Geneva Convention, and they are presenting themselves at the biggest official border crossing in all of Europe, going to the most busiest one, in completely transparency, holding their banners and saying, we came through the official legal way. This is our right. Grant us our right to asylum and to individualized assessment of our case. And so Border Violence Monitoring Network, a huge network working on documenting and monitoring the borders. Northern Lights Aid, Collective Aid, Mission Wings Foundation. Mission Wings is one of the biggest organizations in Bulgaria that is also working to protect rights of asylum seekers and refugees in Bulgaria. They have also been incredibly supportive. We've spoken with them. Center for Legal Aid Voices in Bulgaria, again, another organization in Bulgaria that has also been familiar with the case and that works to protect the rights of refugees in Bulgaria. So you see organizations in Bulgaria, they are supportive, and they understand that what they're doing is they're following the law. They have a right to claim asylum.
I think they understand you need to get out.
Of course.
Like, you need to leave. You have nowhere else to go. You have to get out.
So Center for Legal Aid Voices in Bulgaria, Europe Cares, Hope and Humanity Poland, Project ELPIDA, Africa Working Group of the IRF Roundtable, Washington, D.C. So you see the different countries. So
this matters reach the U.S.
Of course. So Bitter Winter Magazine, Human Rights Without Frontiers. By the way, some of them are national NGOs, some of them are regional NGOs, some of them are international NGOs. So you see the scope, and some of them are networks, and so they are including in there many other organizations who are part of, these are umbrella organizations. Human Rights Without Frontiers has also been one of the organizations, by the way, that supported and wrote about the case in Iran. So they have also issued an article, and they have documented the arrest of the 50 members of the religion in Iran.
And a religion that's officially recognized, 501c3 U.S. religion. I think it's important to mention too, this is not some religion that was made up out of thin air. This has been recognized by the United States government. We have been around now for years, and it's shocking to me now that a state, I mean, it's not shocking, but in a way it's like, how egomaniacal that a state like Iran would launch such an attack in such a war.
So Human Rights Without Frontiers, Samos Volunteers, Be Aware and Share, Network Anthropia, Inter-European Humanitarian Aid Association, Association on Refugees and Migrants in Bulgaria, like I said, one of the first organizations that's been with us. We Are Here, Solidarity Tree, Set My People Free from Sweden, Professor Arya Rasfar, who's a professor of linguistics and education in the University of Illinois, Chicago, and he's on the board member, director of the religion. Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashem, the head of the religion from the Ahmadi religion of Peace and Light, and Metodija Koloski, president of the United Macedonian Diaspora. So a long list of some of the most respected, active, well-known organizations, human rights organizations that are active in the field, number one. Number two, that have such a broad experience and understanding of the rights of refugees, of the situation on the border, and with that understanding, mobilize together to sign and endorse and protect the group in their march on Wednesday. So they understand the danger, they understand what it means that that a group collectively decides to approach the border, and they know the records of extreme unfortunate human rights violations on EU borders, and because of that, they're saying they urge the Bulgarian authorities to work by its commitment to international law, to the Geneva Conventions, and respect their obligation to grant the group the right to pledge to lodge basically a request for asylum. So they understand the law, they understand what the commitments of these states are, what the commitment of Bulgaria is according to the International Geneva Convention, and they are asking Bulgaria to work by its obligations and commitments, and they are doing this because they want to protect that group. This is the protection by mobilizing, by the NGOs coming together, by even having media involvement together, by shedding the light that this group deserves to be protected because what they're doing is within their right. They have, like I said, they made a decision to come very openly and following all legal pathways that there is. So they have, like I said, done everything right. They've spoken to everyone they were supposed to, and
And it's not just human rights organizations that are covering this case, protecting them, speaking out for them. There has been a large number of press that have been covering this, and we actually have members, independent journalists, members of the international press that will be on the ground. We will be speaking with them tomorrow and also throughout the coverage on Wednesday. I think it's important to mention that we will be live broadcasting this march. I think this is one of the first times that I'm aware of in a situation like this on the EU border that a mass march of over 106 people will be live streamed. We will be live streaming this march and giving you updated feedback on the ground there with the men, women, and children, what's happening on both sides of the border. And you said something very important is that, like we said earlier, we hope that they get through, and we hope that the Turkish border police see the situation, see what's happening, open their doors. But in the event, I think it's important to mention that it's not a given. This is not something that is guaranteed to them. They're taking a big risk, but it's really their the only option they have. There's nothing left on the table. I hope and I urge, just as the human rights organizations and the international press have supported this group, that the people watching at home, all of the viewers, support as well. We've created an events page on Facebook. You can go search Humanity Before Borders. I'm sure that we can put on the screen here. You can click on that link. You can. We'll have a QR code soon, and go and support in every way that you can. Spread this news. Get a hold of outlets. Comment and share this page, because we will be back tomorrow. We will be talking extensively, going into detail in each one of these cases, bringing on people on the show who have experience with the men, women, and children in these cases, taking phone calls. And we encourage now all the viewers, and also tomorrow and going into Wednesday, to call in, share your experiences, sometimes just give your support. They are also on the other end listening to you. They hear you. We want to show a strong voice, because that's what we're doing here. I guess it gets back to the point of why are we here? And it's important for us. We want to shine the light on this situation, especially on the EU border, for protection, because these are 106 people who have left everything now. They have nothing else. And and we want to make sure that they understand that the world, we're here. We are there, and that the Turkish border police understand too that this is a big issue. This is a big case. This is an international case. They're doing everything right, and we hope they do what's right and allow them through. And if you have any last statements, anything you want to say, in preparation for tomorrow and Wednesday, for the viewers or for anyone at home.
Ridwan's last words before they decided to make that march, he told me, Hadil, I have no other choice. So these are men, women, children who have made the extremely huge decision because they have no other choice. So it's upon us, upon everybody who's watching, to understand that this is such a critical situation where we are saying, let humanity triumph and come before borders, because they have every right to live a life where they don't have to run in fear just because they chose to practice their faith. I hope that, and I have full faith that they will be allowed to practice their right, that the Turkish and Bulgarian authorities would allow them, grant them safety, grant them legal protection, and allow them to make a claim for asylum. And we are here to cover every step of it, and hopefully be there as well to protect them in this.
Thank you so much, Adil.
Thank you.
We are with you. Please, all of you at home, stay tuned to all of the coverage coming up over the next few days. Go to our Facebook events page at Humanity Before Borders. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow.